Thank you for listening to The Luminous Mind, episode 61.
Take one step forward into the bigger world out there. Become a student of life. Everything that happens to you, whether it's good or bad, can teach you something. And oftentimes, the bad things that happen to us are actually the greatest blessings because they teach us really important lessons about ourselves.
Benjamin Franklin once said, "Do not curse the darkness, rather light a candle instead." If you're ready to set your mind on fire, then prepare yourself for the Luminous Mind with your host, Rebecca Bowman.
Today's fire starter is Danny Flood. Danny is an author, entrepreneur, world traveler, rabble-rouser, friend, and lover from California. Danny believes that life is a daring adventure or nothing. He challenges those around him to step out of their comfort zone, take risks, and do something new, to see how refreshing that feels. He believes that we should live life on its own terms without outside pressure from others. His book, By Your Own Island, is a playbook designed to help individuals find the love, adventure, passion, and purpose that they seek. Danny has romped through 30 countries and lived in over a dozen. He fought as amateur Muay Thai boxer in Bangkok, trained in several forms of dance, learned 5 languages, and studied Wang Dang Tai Chi. He crossed half of Southeast Asia on a motorcycle, rafted down the Amazon, ridden a bicycle across Mexico, swam in whale sharks in the Philippines, hitchhiked across Brazil, Malaysia, and Taiwan, and climbed the tallest mountains in South America. He rappelled off waterfalls in the jungle, zip-lined above volcanoes, and sailed across the South China Sea. So welcome, Danny. Do you want to tell our audience a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So thanks for having me on your show. I appreciate the invitation. I just published the book By Your Own Island. It's a book about lifestyle design and making your biggest goals reality. I call them dream goals. And it was #1 bestseller for several different categories for 2 weeks. We did a promotion in job hunting, careers, and self-help. The book is based upon my experiences traveling the last 4, almost 5 years now, traveling around the world. I've been supporting myself by working online. I just started this journey after I graduated from college because I felt like, I felt like something was missing from my life. And the book is based on the experiences that I've had since then. So the book is what I would have wanted to have when I was 22, 23, coming out of school and deer in the headlights trying to figure my life out.
Well, that's great. So what have you learned from your travels?
So much. Yeah, so, I really rewind back to when I was like 20, 21. I didn't know what direction to really go in life. I felt like my dharma was really out of alignment. I joined the military for like a year. Didn't really work out. And I got a job in a factory. I got fired after one day.
Oh, no.
I screwed up a batch of products or something like that. And I really and then I went to an art school, because I thought, well, maybe I'll be happy there. And I really didn't know what path to take in life. And I just decided one day that I always loved to write. I decided I had nothing to write about. So I figured I'd just go out in the world and, open myself up to as many experiences as I possibly could so that I would have good stories to tell. And there were a few things that held me back. Obviously I'm not rich, but once I'd finished school, school was holding me back, and I felt like I was finally free once I was putting out in the real world. I was a little bit afraid, to travel too. So I did just a litmus test, stepped outside of my comfort zone. I went to Mexico for a couple of months. I learned, I taught myself how to design, some simple websites, and I traded this lady. I said, I'll help you, design a website for your hotel business if you give me a place to stay. And I did that, and that was my first experience, long-term travel. And then I've been taking bigger and bigger trips ever since overseas. And everywhere I've gone, I've learned something new. So that first experience when I was living with this lady, Maria, she's an older lady. She's really well traveled herself. She does it even without any money. She backpacked throughout Europe. And, I told her, like, I felt like I had all these responsibilities, all these things holding me back. And, she was basically telling me over and over again, you have nothing to lose. And it really stuck with me, because she kept saying that, like, I was not there. I was focused on something 200 miles away, and then I'd forget to clean the dishes or something like that. And she'd yell at me for that. So, so she was my first mentor, and I've learned a bunch of things since then. We can talk about that if you like.
Yeah, exactly. Keep going. I like the story, where it's headed.
So I actually did a presentation on this here in Bangkok a couple of nights ago at a travel seminar, and it was really about the inner journey of travel. I think that all too often we think that travel is about the destinations you visit or temples and museums, beaches, but that's only half the story and not the important one. I think that for a true traveler, the inner journey is far more important. Taking that first step into a larger world. And personally, I think it's the greatest personal transformation that you can take in life, because there's so many gifts out there in the new worlds waiting for you. In my presentation, I talk about, some different individuals who have had their lives changed through travel. One is Buddha. He left behind a palace, a wife, family to discover the truth out in the world, and his journey inspired billions of people. Charles Darwin, sailed across the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans, came up with a theory of evolution. That would not have happened if he hadn't traveled. And then I have, several other examples of other individuals who've done that. As for me, every place that I've gone, each culture I've immersed myself in has shaped me and become a part of me. Like I mentioned Mexico, I've learned how to slow down like a Mexican. I've learned how to dance like an Argentinian or party like a Brazilian. I know how to smile like a Thai, stuff like this. And I can continue on, but I feel like I'm rambling a little bit.
No, I love how you're able to see the learning and the growth that you've, been able to acquire through your travel. You feel a little more, like you said, you're searching for something. Do you feel a little happier or more like your life is a little bit more fulfilled through your travel?
Well, I think it comes down to a few different things. I practice this concept of lifestyle discovery. And if you ever see a fork in the road, just take it. Long-term travel has allowed me to shed different layers of baggage from my life. All the baggage that I had over years of social conditioning disappears, when I enter a new environment. It's helped me to discover my purpose in life, my higher purpose, because I was doing work before that, had very little meaning to me or to anyone else. But I think there's something even more powerful than your purpose in life, and that's just your essence. That's the core of who you are. It's really about seizing each moment and living fully, loving fully, being vulnerable. I think that if we just stay in one place our whole lives, if we have one small circle of influence, we're kind of living in a shell, a protective shell, and we're afraid to be vulnerable. We're afraid to, we numb ourselves to everything life has to offer because we numb any potential danger or pain, but we also numb ourselves from joy and happiness as well.
Yeah. I had one of our world travelers say that when you're traveling, your senses are more alive. Do you feel that way? That maybe you come more, like you said, where we kind of go numb when we're staying in one spot? Do you feel like your senses are more awake and that you're able to enjoy life more through your travel?
Yes, absolutely. The Navy SEALs they talk about 4 different mental states. So there's the white state, which is how most of us live in. Basically, the white state is when you're, texting on your phone while you're walking down the street and your headphones are in, and then you walk into a signpost because you're not present. There's the yellow state, which is basically when you travel. When you're in a new environment, you're suddenly more aware. You observe things. Your senses sharpen. There's the red state. So talk about Navy SEALs here. The Navy SEALs, before they go off into a mission, they work themselves up into this red state, just before the mission. And then the black state is the final one, and that's where they kill everything that moves. So
that only really... Navy SEALs can hopefully experience.
But it's fascinating. I have a friend who taught me this, and he lives most of his life in this yellow and even the red state. And because we can be sitting in a cafe, and I'll ask him, "Who's behind you?" And without looking back, he'll name, He'll describe each person sitting at the table behind him. It's fascinating stuff.
That is neat. Yeah. That's funny.
Fun anecdote.
So Danny owns the OpenWorld, am I saying this right? OpenWorldMag.com. What services do you offer off of that website? What products do you have there?
Yeah, sure. So OpenWorldMag.com is a blog. It's a resource where we focus on this concept of lifestyle discovery. I guess you could also call it lifestyle design, but taking charge of your own life and taking responsibility for your own life. We try to inspire people by featuring individuals who are doing remarkable things around the world, and also give people the tools that they can use to make a dramatic life upgrade.
Yeah, exactly. He has on here, the adventures in travel, entrepreneurship, inspiration hacks, how to, and then of course he's a podcaster, so a guy after my own heart. So what was the inspiration behind this? Just that you wanted to share your experience, or is there other inspiration behind that?
Well, I was traveling in Southeast Asia, and I was basically, going on a rampage around the world and just crossing off one dream goal after another. I sailed across the South China Sea. I did a motorcycle trip across Vietnam, and then I was in Malaysia, and I was hiking. I basically reached the heights of everything I dreamed of, and I was like, wow, is this really it? Because this is really cool, but it's also reality, and it's almost like senseless. And at that point, I realized that whatever I do next, I want it to be greater than what I've done in the past. And it was at that point where I went to Malaysia where I lost my balance. Actually, I was at the height of everything I'd wanted, and I lost my balance. I fell from a bridge. And I looked down, I see just nothing but black, and I had no time to react. So I started falling, and I landed on my chin, and broke several teeth, broke my foot. After that experience, I went back home for a few months, and I spent a lot of time meditating, thinking about what's next. And, the answer to me seemed obvious. I wanted to make a contribution. That took shape in the form of this book. And the blog is kind of a similar topic to the book. Everything I've learned, and I want to condense all the knowledge and experiences of all the people I've met, around the world who are living their life this way.
Yeah. How does a person do all the travel and adventure like you're doing? I mean, you say you work off the internet. What are some other ways that a person can be more location independent?
Well, it really depends. I mean, everyone is different. If you want to be more specific, I started out doing freelance. So I have a degree in advertising. I started out, designing logos for $100. Nothing too exciting, but I just kept learning, everything I could. I'd go to the pizza place that I go to all the time and just say, hey, I can help you rank in Google Maps. Are you interested? And I just work out a trade. And I basically just learned. I learned taught myself how to design websites. And it's really not that hard. I have a lot of what I focuses on learning. What I like to say is begin with the end in mind. So there's a chess player, Josh Waitzkin. He wrote the book In Search of Bobby Fischer.
I have not heard of that book.
Searching for Bobby Fischer. I'm sorry, it was a documentary, and he wrote the book The Art of Learning, actually. So basically, when Josh Waitzkin was learning chess, he didn't start with all of the pieces on the board. He started with just learning how to checkmate the king, because that's the goal of chess, is to checkmate the king. Whenever I try to learn anything, I like to start with the finished product. I don't if I'm learning programming, for example, I don't want to learn the most basic things at the beginning. It's too time consuming. I'll start with a template that's already finished, and I'll watch how someone else does it. I'll watch how the master does it, and then I'll try to emulate them, and I'll just keep doing that. So I have on my website, I have language hacking, how you can learn languages really quickly. People are amazed at how I can, pick up 5-6 different languages in a very short time.
Oh, that's cool. I'll have to check that one out. Before we go on, let us take a minute and hear about our sponsors.
Hey, Firestarters, are you looking for a new way to listen to The Luminous Mind? Try listening on Stitcher. Haven't heard of Stitcher? Think of it as radio on demand. You can listen to The Luminous Mind anytime, anywhere. There is no downloading, no syncing, no wasted memory. Just stream your favorite podcasts such as The Luminous Mind. Stitcher is available on iOS, Android, Nook, iPad, and also from your favorite internet browser. Don't have Stitcher? Download it free today at Stitcher.com or in the App Store. And make sure you rate and review The Luminous Mind, so together we can continue to light minds on fire and change the paradigm of education.
On your shoulders, cause you're holding up boulders. The world keeps growing colder as we each grow older together on this planet. Same beats and rhymes, we nod our heads all together, all at the same time. To the treasures that we find inside of the gold mine that keeps us from losing our minds. See, it's a sign. Other times now you can beg, you can borrow, you can lease, but you can't own it. All you can really do is just hold on to every moment now. Get up, go get it now, don't stop. You gotta keep on pushing till you reach the top. Say perpetual motion, perpetual motion, perpetual motion.
Welcome back to The Luminous Mind with Danny Flood, CEO and founder of OpenWorld Magazine and author of By Your Own Island. So I am looking at your hacks. So is your audiobook different than what you can find on your website? How is it different?
How is the book different from the website?
And the book is called By Your Own Island, correct?
Yeah, it's called By Your Own Island. It's available on Amazon for $9.99. The audiobook is also available for free. I can send you a link to that. You can include that in the show notes if you like.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, for listeners. The book is very, very comprehensive. It condenses everything that I've learned and everything that I've learned from people I've interviewed and talked to. A lot of it's how to set up online business. There's a whole section about how to become a location independent entrepreneur. The first section of the book has case studies, really thorough and in-depth case studies of different types of remote businesses, people that I've interviewed, and they run the gamut. Because when you read a book like 4-Hour Workweek, for example, a very popular book, he only gives, 2 examples in that book of, a French shirt company and I think maybe a supplement company, but it doesn't really tell you the how, it just tells you the what. So in my book, in the part 4, any type of business you want to start with, it's freelancing, information products, physical products, supplements. I interview people say, this is exactly how you do it. This is how you get the first sale. This is how you do marketing. This is what you focus on your website. So I think in that aspect, it's very unique. In my mind, it's the most comprehensive book on this subject.
Yeah, I'm going to have to check it out because it does. I'm really interested too in your entrepreneurship. Your first post on there is what's the difference between normal business and lifestyle business, and how is that different?
Yeah, sure. So in my book, I make an important distinction that keeps it simple. There's 2 types of businesses. One is called ELF, and that's easy, lucrative, and fun. And the other is called HAF, which is hard, annoying, lame, and frustrating.
Which is most of us, I'm sure. Exactly.
But the thing is, if you identify certain points in your business, you can transform a HAF business to an ELF business, for example. I'll give you my own example, recent example. When I published my book, when I first worked on my first book, By Your Own Island, it took me more than 4 months to convert the file from PDF to the Kindle book. And I was really determined to figure it out myself, and I tried a bunch of different programs and solutions. I kept putting it off, so my release date was delayed, by months. And then, I just finished writing 2 other short books, and just yesterday I was able to convert the file for one of those books in 1 day.
Wow.
Because I know how it works now. But I shortcutted that process from 4 months to 1 day. And I look at that like that's an example of, I call it accelerating returns. Malcolm Gladwell uses the concept, it takes 10,000 hours to become an expert at something.
Yes.
I don't know if it takes 10,000 hours, but it's true that the more you do a process in your business, the better you get at it. That's when you can really scale up your business. And I also talk about, there's some other different distinctions. So whenever you find you identify a problem, you put a process in place to correct the problem. And each problem that you identify in a business is an opportunity. And then I'm a big fan of creating operating procedures that are just step-by-step processes. It's also called business systems. And if you go to that post that you mentioned, actually, I talk about systems, and there's a comprehensive list there.
That's great. So, Danny, what successes have you seen? I mean, you started out traveling, and do you want to tell our audience what you're doing now and how you've been able to, become successful and what you've become successful in?
Well, it really depends on how you define success. I think that for me, success is really about just waking up each day and just, being fully present and engaged in whatever it is you're doing. You don't necessarily have to travel. But if you wake up and you're just you're saying, I don't want to face the day, then you really should analyze your life and, see if things need to be done differently. in this area where I don't know if you want to talk about, world schooling or not, or if we were going to get into that.
Oh, yeah. Go right into it.
Okay. So just transitioning here, there's actually some really cool examples of people who are traveling with kids, for example. Have you heard of Kaz and Craig Makepeace?
I actually haven't.
They have a blog, whytravelblog.com. So if your listeners are interested in homeschooling their children, and that's their definition of success, is they want to bring their children with them around the world, I would check out this couple, whytravelblog.com. They're traveling with 2 children. Also, onedad1kid.com. That's number 1, onedad1kid.com. And he's just traveling around with his son because his dream was to raise his children in foreign countries and have them experience the whole world. And his motto is, Vive sans regrets, live without regrets. So, yeah, I mean, that's how I define success. But if you're also, wanting to world school your children, those are a couple of great examples out there that I know of.
That's great. I'll have to look them up and hopefully talk to them as well. So that's been a lifelong goal of ours. It's just sometimes we, like you said earlier, we limit ourselves of what we think we can do, as far as resources and time and all of those things. And so we kind of hold ourselves back from doing some of the things that we really want to do.
Yeah, they're all just alibis, and we all have our own secret excuses that we carry around with us. Because, when you have an alibi, it basically fixes you. If you say that, if you ask someone how they are, they say, I'm fine. You say you're fine even though you're not. But you carry around that alibi with you. You carry around that I'm fine with you for the rest of your life.
Yeah, instead of facing something straight on, living in the yellow zone versus the the red zone. Or
Living in the white zone, yeah, exactly.
How have you seen people, individuals or families benefit by using your products?
Well, I've had a lot of people, contact me saying I inspired them to book a one-way ticket somewhere to Bali or Brazil. I really just want to try to present different ideas that make people think outside of the established paradigm, or ideas that you might see outside of the media, for example. I've learned so much just as a result of my travels, everything the world has given me, everything that all the people I've met have given me. It's just filled me with such gratitude. And I want to share that and present it to other people in the hopes that they can look at life a little bit differently,
Yeah,
than how they are now.
That's great. So what are some of your long-term goals then?
I don't really have long-term goals. I mean, I don't have goals that extend out 1 year. I believe in setting short-term goals, 1 month, 3 months, possibly 6 months. And in my book, I talk about this a great deal. There's an exercise in the 4-hour work week that I did together with a few friends. It's called dreamlining. And you basically just take whatever your 3 or 4 biggest goals that your imagination can conjure up, identify, okay, what are the steps I need to take today, tomorrow, and the next day? How much is it going to cost? And I think what the powerful thing is really just defining things. If you have a goal, if it's really abstract, it's very difficult to act on it. The same with a fear. If there's something holding you back, if it's an abstract fear, you can't overcome it. So you have to really define things and say, once you define it, you bring it into reality a little bit more. You make it actionable. So as for me personally, I just published this book. I'm looking to publish 2 more books within the next month or 2. I'm traveling around a lot all over Asia. I'd like to do a bicycle trip across China and possibly into India, travel-wise. Business-wise, I want to publish this magazine, and I'd like it to be the first print magazine in this area and inspire as many people as I can.
You mean in Asia? You wanted to inspire people in Asia then?
No, it'll be a digital magazine. We're more focused on the niche, basically. So this growing niche of digital nomads, remote workers, freelancers who work from home. And then eventually, it'll be like in the U.S. and then international.
That's awesome. So do you find that long-term goals kind of limits people? Maybe if you put something out there too far, you never reach it because it's just kind of out in the distance? Is that why you don't really do long-term goals? Or do you just find it's more actionable, like you said, to have shorter-term goals like that? Just curious. I'm totally curious.
Life happens in the present. There's nothing that you can't start doing today. Whether your dream is to travel, whether your dream is to write a book, you could put it off for years. If you just take a small step every week or every few days, then you're going to realize whatever it is you wanted before you know it. I mean, my book took over a year to write, the first one. And when I first started writing, I didn't know exactly where I wanted the book to go. And all of the early entries that I made into the book, I deleted them all later because I was cringing at the quality. But I just got started on that.
That's awesome. And so sometimes when we just get working on things a little at a time, we realize our long-term goal, is here in reality. So my next question was, if you could leave a legacy, what would it be?
Like I said, I haven't really thought that far ahead, legacy, long-term. I basically just making the most of the present moment, I think. That's what matters most to me. But if I could leave any legacy, I hope that I can help inspire people to transform their lives in a positive way.
Yeah, not to stay stuck in the same paradigms of what life is like. Exactly. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, sometimes you introduce a new idea to someone and they're just like, whoa, I never thought of things that way. And, and I think that if too many of us are stuck wherever we are, I know that because I was that person, just feeling so frustrated with the way my life was going. I felt like I was spinning the wheels. I didn't have any mentors. I didn't know who I could turn to. And I felt really fearful and mistrusting. And, travel really helped me to break free from that. Yeah.
I love that. It's neat to see how a person changes through experiences. So before we say goodbye, do you have some final parting words of advice? And then please give us your contact information so we know how to get a hold of you.
Yeah, sure. So I recommend checking out our blog, OpenWorldMag.com. You can also download the free audiobook at buyourowisland.com/audio-book. My parting advice, I guess, would just be to take one step forward into the bigger world out there. Become a student of life. Everything that happens to you, whether it's good or bad, can teach you something. And oftentimes, the bad things that happen to us are actually the greatest blessings because they teach us really important lessons about ourselves.
Oh, I really love that because that is true. I mean, sometimes we feel like when we make a mistake, you carry that around with you forever and you feel like a failure and all of that stuff. But really, that's when the best lessons come and when we learn the most. Those are the lessons. I mean, I tell my kids over and over again is that mistakes are good and they help us continue to grow. They help us to continue to improve in the future and to be a better person.
Exactly. And trials and tribulations, they help us develop courage. And if someone is mean to you, for example, or, says something unkind to you, they're teaching you patience. That's how you take an event and you become a better person as a result of the event. So whether it's good or bad, I think that sometimes the bad things that happen can ultimately in the bigger picture be the greatest blessings.
That's great. Well, thank you, Danny, so much for joining us. I really feel like you've really inspired our listeners, and I'm excited to get to know you better through your blog and through your book. So thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope your listeners did as well. Have a good night.
Thanks. Thank you for listening to The Luminous Mind. To learn more about Danny Flood and to get the link for his audiobook, go to our show notes at theluminousmind.net. Also, be sure to become a subscriber to our free email list so you can receive notifications for our weekly audio blog, The Spark. We would love to have you join our program. Do so by going to the scheduling tab and become a fire starter today. Help support the podcast by making all your Amazon purchases through the free Amazon widget on our website, theluminousmind.net. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Google+. Get our audio content on YouTube, iTunes, and Stitcher. Leave us a review. Tell us how we can help you so together we can continue to light minds on fire and change the paradigm of education.